Hello, welcome to Learn to Play Chess. We're now on episode 4 and we're learning about the knight. Now, we've said that the black squares and the black pieces aren't always black, likewise the white pieces. The rook looks more like a castle and the knight looks like a horse. There he is. And the knight goes on the squares next to the rook. That's where they go, and there's of course two of them on both teams. This is probably the last of the two complicated pieces. The pawn was a pretty complicated piece to use. Do you remember? It can only go forward. It can only take diagonally. It can't take forward. It can't go diagonally if it's not taking. On its first go, it can go 1 or 2 places if you want. On every other go, only 1 pace forward. When it gets to the last square, it can be swapped for any other piece except the king. And then there's that crazy en passant move. If you forget that, go back to episode 2 and relearn these things. We learnt about the rook, which can go forwards, backwards, left or right for as many places as you want until it gets to a piece that it takes. And that's got to be the last square it goes onto. So what about this knight? Ooh, he's a feisty little fellow, isn't he? Let me just clear the board and I'll give you a detailed look. The knight has a very specific move that it can do. It starts off in the same direction as the rook, so it can go forward and backwards, left or right in a straight line. And it has to go for 2 spaces and then 1 to the side. So if it's starting here, it's 1, 2 left, or it's 1, 2 right. Or it can come backwards, 1, 2 left, 1, 2 right. Or it can start off going to the right, 1, 2 left, 1, 2 right. And of course that way as well, and that way. So you may think that's quite limited, but look, from that position it can land on any one of those 8 spaces that has got a black pawn on it. It can only take the piece that it finally lands on. It's a very distinct move, very specific. You can't stop anywhere along. You've got to get to that point there, and that's the piece you take. But the other great thing about a knight is that it can jump. Just like a show jumping horse, it can jump. It can jump over these 2 to take that pawn. It doesn't take these, the ones that it jumps over. It's not like drafts. So it can reach 8 positions from any square that it's on. It can leap over anything in its way, but only the square on which it lands can it take or capture a piece from. One game you could play if you've just got a knight and a chessboard is to start at the bottom left corner and start moving. Put a penny on that square that you left off, put a penny on that square and move back, put a penny on that square, and the game is to somehow get around all the board, getting a penny or a marker on every single square, but only landing on each square once. That's the kind of thing that kept little children busily amused for hours during a summer holiday when it was raining before we had the internet. Moving swiftly on, because I don't want to dwell on the fact that I can never actually accomplish that task, your homework between now and the next lesson is to line up your pawns, put your rooks and your knights in place and have a go. And remember, because they can jump, they can get over the first line of your army. So all your other pieces down the back here are still protected by the pawns, and your knight can get out and do something. So you've been playing with pawns, you've been playing with pawns and rooks, and now you're playing with pawns, rooks and knights. Grab that friend, go and have a few games, and when you're ready, come back and we'll learn our next piece.